Looky there. I should have a stethoscope also, just so you guys know. All right, so I've already lubricated and all that kind of stuff and talked to him, so I'm gonna put this in to the first black mark. We'll have him sitting up upright. Now he should be drinking his water. Slurp, 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 slurp. It's not this hard on a real person. You don't need this much resistance. Let's just say I've got it up to the mark that I want. Okay, I'm almost there. So once you get him up to there, this pigtail here is an air vent. You never use it for anything. It always has to be unplugged, okay? To check for placement, if you're going to check his pH, you would put this on here. You would draw out like maybe 10 cc's of stomach content. You would squirt that into your little container wherever it is. Then you would take one of your pH strips and stick it in it. And when you look at it, it should be kind of a green color. And there should be a bottle that the pH strips come out of, and you compare it to that to make sure it's the right one.
So green is good and everything else is bad?
Could be.
Just depends
It's either
on-
green or yellow, I forget which.
Okay.
You'll have to look that up, okay?
Okay.
Now also in the hospitals, how they're going to have you check for placement is you'll take this tube and you'll put air in it. You'll put it on here. You'll get your stethoscope, and while you're listening with the stethoscope, you'll push the air in and you should hear a gurgling noise when it goes in down here, okay?
Okay.
So we know we've got the tube where we want it. So what I'm going to do is tape it down. To anchor it when you very first put it in while you're checking placement, you could take a piece of tape and just put it on his cheek. Like when I very first put that in, I could have done this. And then just tape it here on his cheek to hold it. Except that doesn't want to stick very well.
Well, and obviously it would stick to real skin.
Right. If you're through messing with the stuff, you can go ahead and take your gloves off. Well, I can't find where the tape opens.
There's another roll right there, and I think you can tell.
So what I'm going to do is tear off a piece about this big. I'm going to just tear it in half right here, just a little ways. This large part I'm going to put on his nose, like this. Then the piece that I tore, we'll bring one piece down this way, and then just wrap that around the tube, like that. Bring this piece around this way. Wrap that around. We'll take this off of his cheek. And then what you could do is put a piece of tape it to his gown, like this. So that way he has a little leeway that if he turns over, he's not going to pull it out. Now, if you were going to be hooking this up to suction when you get to this point, you would take this little adapter right here and put in there, and then you'd stick it into the tubing that goes to the suction. If you're not going to be using it at that minute, you can cap it off.
And then on the suction, what's the rate on that? Just green
Oh,
or
this is the cap. Oh, that's
40
right.
or
The suction, the doctor will have to tell you it's either going to be low intermittent, medium, or high, or it could
Okay.
be continuous. And then you just set it on the canister, whatever they tell you.
okay.
So just remember per doctor's orders.
Right. It's not hard, there's not a lot to it.
Now,
So,
what about the
lavage and
lavage? They're not
gavage.
gonna,
Okay, the
gavage is the feeding. and you
gavage
can
is
hook it up.
feeding.
Lavage
Okay,
is when you.
if you're gonna be feeding him, you would have to take this and you'd have to dry out all the stomach content. All right, and you have to measure it as you go, so I'd have my gloves on, okay? So I just took out 60 and I pull back and there's not any more, all right? So I'll suck that 60 back up and put it back in here.
Seems so
You know, that seems so gross, yeah. I mean, I think I'd have problems with that. Like, oh, no, you're not.
Then you're gonna take this little syringe.
But if you draw out 250.
If you drew out 200, more than 250, you would not give him a feeding.
Okay.
So here I've got this, I'm gonna flush it with 30 milliliters of water. Okay, that's flushed. Then my next cup will have his feeding in it. And we'll give him just a little bit, like maybe 30 cc's. Let that go down,
And you're just gravity on
And
that
that's
one.
gravity.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
30
you'd set it
cc's.
up to a
let it go
feeding
down,
pump.
right. When you're through with this, then you go back to your water again. You flush it with another 30. You let it go through. And take this off and put your little cap on there.
So we should always do 30. Like we should
Mhm.
do 30 flush and then like put 30 in to let it gravity do that, and then
Yeah, it's
flush
just
it
e-
with 30 again.
And is that sterile water or
It can be any
tap
kind of
water?
water, yeah.
Just- Okay.
Also, when you're giving medications, you do the same thing. You flush with the 30, you dissolve your medications in the water, put that down, and you flush with the 30,
Okay.
okay? If
My
you're-
wife knew a nurse that was trying to shove Hope Hills down in that thing, trying to
Oh
get
my
go to.
gosh.
She's like, what are you doing?
If you hook this up, like if you have one of those kangaroo pumps and you're gonna be doing a feeding, it will flush it for you. It's got one bag of flush, one bag of the solution. They all come down into one tube that you put in here
I think we saw that. in
You
the
just
hospital
program it
in PQ.
on each side. So it'll flush for you, it'll feed for you, and it'll flush for you.
Okay, so what about lavage? What would you do?
Lavage, you have to,
Before we get to that, on the feeding, there was something about mixing the you guys remember that? The mixing
Formula?
the formula?
So
What-
just that it can't be too cold or you can get stomach cramps. Is that
Gotta
what
be
it's
you
usually at
room
room
temperature.
temperature, and it's
Yeah.
usually pre-mixed. It will either come in a bag already mixed, or it'll come in a
Mhm.
can. You don't have to dilute it or
There was
anything.
something I thought I remembered about that. If it was too thick, you'd have to dilute it with water to get it to go through the tube easier.
Well, that makes sense, but I don't know, I've
Okay.
never experienced
Okay.
that with tube feeding.
Okay. Maybe I
Okay,
dreamed.
the lavage, you'd have your bucket of ice water, not a bucket, but your container for normal saline, whatever you're gonna use. You would, put this on. I don't remember the exact number of cc's you're supposed to put in at a time. Do you guys remember?
It's 50 to 100, isn't it? I think it's
Okay,
on
then
one
I'd
of those
put in
papers.
50,
Is
I'd
that
let that
one
go down, and then I would have something to catch it in and let it run back out. You should get more out than you put in, because the whole idea is to stop the bleeding, right? So then you put in your next 50, let it go down, then you let it run out. Keep track of how much you're putting in, and use a graduated cylinder so you can count how much comes back out. Then you do that till
And
it
that's,
stops bleeding or whatever.
and that's for upper GI bleeding?
Yeah.
Okay. Now how do we, well, I mean, like, so what comes back out
Or
is gonna be bloody,
poisoning or
right?
whatever.
So we just keep doing that until it's no
Until-
longer bloody?
Until it's clear, or whatever the doctor's order says.
Okay.
I don't think they do this anymore, but maybe if you're in a third world country or something, but you guys probably never have to do this.
Okay. But we still need to know how to do
What were
that.
you saying, Dina?
Isn't that done like for poisoning or something too?
With that, you use charcoal, and you use a tube about the size of a garden hose, and you put that in, and I think you let it dwell for a while, maybe. I'm not sure.
So it
I
said
don't
something
I
on
don't know
that
if they take that
paper.
back out or
How does a
not.
tube the size of a garden hose fit in your nose?
No, it goes down your mouth on that, don't
Pardon
it?
me?
It goes down your mouth on that big tube.
No, it goes down the nose. They do it,
That's huge.
yeah. But I think that they want it to stay, I don't know if it stays in or not, but I know that it absorbs the poison, or absorbs whatever chemical they have in them. If they don't do it this way, they can make them drink it,
It's just documentation.
and when they have a bowel movement, it's gonna be black. If they puke, it's gonna be black. It'll be a mess.
What is it? Is it charcoal like just
It's
like
just charcoal.
just like lumps of charcoal?
No, it's a liquid
It's
form.
liquid charcoal.